For the past 11 years, I've been running Keller Security Solutions, a company I built from scratch after leaving the Army Rangers in 2014. We specialize in corporate security consulting and personal protection services throughout the Pacific Northwest. What started as a one-man operation in a cramped Seattle office has grown into a firm with 12 employees and annual revenues pushing $2 million. I met my wife, Lena Whitmore, 8 years ago at a charity gala in downtown Portland. She was working as an event coordinator then, charming and ambitious, with striking auburn hair and a laugh that could fill a room. We married in early 2019, and she moved into my home in Lake Oswego. Our twins, Jake and Emma, were born in late 2018 and are now 6 years old. The morning of July 15th, 2025, my 45th birthday, started like any other Monday. I was reviewing quarterly reports over coffee when Lena walked into my home office, carrying an envelope. The kids were getting ready for summer camp, their voices echoing from the kitchen as they argued over the last of the Lucky Charms. "Happy birthday, honey," she said, but her tone was flat and cold. "I have something for you." I looked up from my laptop. Something in her voice made my military instincts kick in. After 11 years in high-stakes civilian security situations, you learn to read the room. The air felt different, dangerous. She placed the envelope on my desk with deliberate precision. The official letterhead was visible through the manila paper, King, Patterson, and Associates. I knew that law firm. They handled high-net-worth divorces in Portland. "Divorce papers," she said simply. "I'm filing for a dissolution of marriage under Oregon state law." I stared at the envelope without touching it. My training had taught me to stay calm under pressure, but this felt like stepping on an IED. The explosion was coming, and the timing was everything. "Today?" I asked. "On my birthday?" "The timing seemed appropriate," she replied. "A clean break, a fresh start for both of us." I opened the envelope and scanned the documents. Irreconcilable differences. Petition for spousal support. Request for primary custody of minor children. Division of marital assets, including the business, the house, and our investment accounts worth approximately $450,000. "You want everything," I said. "I want what's fair, Stefan. What I deserve after 6 years of marriage." The front door chimed. I heard unfamiliar voices mixing with my children's chatter. Lena glanced toward the hallway. "I brought some people to witness the service of papers," she said. "It's all perfectly legal." A man in an expensive suit appeared in my doorway. Judge Harold Brennan from Multnomah County Circuit Court. Behind him stood another man I didn't recognize, tall and well-dressed, with the kind of confident smile that comes from money and power. "Mr. Keller," Judge Brennan said formally, "I'm here in my capacity as a neutral witness to ensure proper service of these divorce proceedings. Everything is being handled according to Oregon family law." The second man stepped forward and extended his hand. "Clive Banner," he said. "I'm a financial consultant. I'll be helping Lena navigate the asset division process." I didn't shake his hand. Instead, I studied his face, memorizing the details. Light brown hair, a slight scar above his left eyebrow, and an expensive watch that looked like an Apple Watch Series 9. His handshake with Lena lingered too long. His fingers brushed her lower back when he thought I wasn't looking. The picture became crystal clear. "How long?" I asked Lena. "How long what? How long have you been planning this?" She lifted her chin defiantly. Just then, Emma appeared in the doorway, her backpack slung over one shoulder. "Who are these people, Daddy?" "Just some business associates, sweetheart," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Go finish your breakfast. Mom will drive you to camp today." After the kids left with Lena, I sat alone in my office, holding the divorce papers. Judge Brennan and Clive Banner had disappeared as quickly as they'd arrived, their mission accomplished. According to the documents, I had 30 days to respond, 30 days to lose everything I'd built, but they had made one critical mistake. They assumed I was just another unsuspecting husband who'd be blindsided by betrayal. They were wrong. The truth is, I'd known about Lena's affair for 4 months. My suspicion started in March 2025, when she began working late every Tuesday and Thursday. New clothes appeared in her closet. Designer pieces from Nordstrom that cost more than her $45,000 annual salary could justify. She started going to a gym in downtown Portland, 40 minutes from our house, when there were 3 perfectly good fitness centers within 10 minutes of home. But the real confirmation came from my own security systems. I'd installed discrete cameras around our property after a client received death threats in late 2024. On April 10th, while reviewing footage for a completely unrelated insurance claim, I saw Clive Banner's silver BMW X3 pull into our driveway. He stayed for 2 hours while I was supposedly at a client meeting in Vancouver, Washington. I ran his license plate through my professional databases. Clive Banner, 48, divorced, no children. Financial consultant specializing in high-net-worth divorces. His firm, Banner Financial Advisory, had offices in the Pearl District. His annual income was approximately $150,000. He had clean credit and no criminal record, but there were several civil lawsuits from former clients alleging financial misconduct. Instead of confronting Lena, I did what Rangers are trained to do: gather intelligence and plan the mission. I hired Patricia Vance, the best private investigator in Oregon, a former FBI agent with 22 years of experience. She specializes in corporate fraud and marital investigations. Her retainer was $3,000, but she was worth every penny. Within 2 weeks, she had documented 14 meetings between Lena and Clive, including dinner dates at Le Pigeon, weekend trips to wine country, and overnight stays at the Nines Hotel downtown. But Patricia discovered something more disturbing. Clive had been systematically researching my business finances, my military service record, and my personal assets. He'd obtained copies of our tax returns, our mortgage documents, and even my VA disability records. This wasn't just an affair. It was corporate espionage. Your wife has been feeding him inside information for months, Patricia told me during a meeting at her office in May 2025. Bank statements, business contracts, client lists. This guy knows more about your company than your own accountant does. I studied the photographs spread across her desk. Lena and Clive at Pioneer Courthouse Square. Lena handing him a manila envelope outside Stumptown Coffee. Clive photographing documents with his phone while sitting in his car outside my office building. There's something else, Patricia said. I ran a deeper background check on Mr. Banner. His real name is Clifford Bannerman. He's been using variations of his identity for years. He has 2 bankruptcies in different states, 2 restraining orders from ex-girlfriends, and a warrant for check fraud in Nevada from 2022. The pieces started falling into place. This wasn't random. Someone had sent Clive to target me specifically. Who's funding this? I asked. That's where it gets interesting, Patricia said. His business account received a wire transfer of $75,000 in February 2025. The money came from a shell company in Delaware called Redstone Holdings, LLC. I'm still tracing the ultimate source, but whoever's behind this has serious resources. I left Patricia's office with a clear mission objective. I needed to protect my assets, document the conspiracy, and identify the real enemy. But I also needed to do it without tipping off Lena or Clive that I knew anything. The next morning, I called my attorney, Robert Sullivan. Rob specializes in asset protection for business owners and military veterans. His office is in a converted warehouse in the Pearl District, and he charges $350 an hour, but he'd saved more than one of my Ranger buddies from financial ruin during messy divorces. I need to create an offshore trust, I told him, something bulletproof. Rob leaned back in his chair. How much are we talking about? $800,000. I said, business assets, investment accounts, the works. I want it legally untouchable under Oregon equitable distribution laws. That's doable, he said, but it takes time and it's expensive. We're looking at legal fees around $15,000 for setup, plus ongoing maintenance costs. Do it. Over the next 6 weeks, from late May through early July 2025, Rob helped me restructure my finances. We moved 60% of my business assets into a Cook Islands trust, legally shifting ownership of Keller Security Solutions to an international entity I control, but that existed outside U.S. jurisdiction. My investment accounts, worth approximately $250,000, were transferred to a Swiss private bank through perfectly legal channels. On paper, I looked like a man whose business was struggling financially. In reality, I was creating a fortress around everything I'd worked for. Meanwhile, I continued my surveillance operation at home. I installed keylogger software on our shared computer and began monitoring Lena's communications. Her text with Clive revealed the full scope of their plan. They intended to claim I was hiding assets, paint me as an unstable veteran with anger management issues, and use Judge Brennan's influence to award Lena everything in the divorce settlement. Stefan won't know what hit him. Lena wrote in one message in late June, "By the time we're done, he'll be lucky to keep his truck." But the most damning evidence came in early July 2025. Clive had been corresponding with someone using Signal, but he made one crucial mistake. He saved a draft message to his phone that never sent. The message read, "Target acquired. Wife fully compromised. Financial records obtained. Ready to proceed with Phase 2. Keller has no idea what's coming." 13 years of patience is finally paying off. 13 years. That narrowed the timeline considerably. Who had I crossed 13 years ago that would orchestrate something this elaborate? The answer came to me while I was reviewing old military files in my home office. Master Sergeant Vincent Caruso, my former commanding officer, who I'd reported for selling weapons to insurgents in Afghanistan back in 2012. He'd been court-martialed, stripped of rank, and sentenced to 12 years in military prison. He'd been released on parole in early 2024. I pulled up his current address through my security databases. Vincent Caruso, age 56, was living in a luxury condo in downtown Seattle. Listed occupation, consultant, no visible means of support, but somehow affording a $1.4 million apartment with panoramic views of Elliott Bay. The final piece of the puzzle clicked into place. Caruso had hired Clive to destroy me, using my own wife as a weapon. This wasn't just divorce court. This was war. The morning after I received the divorce papers on July 16th, I activated my counteroffensive. My first call was to Special Agent Sarah Martinez at the FBI's Portland field office. Sarah and I had worked together on several federal security cases, and she owed me a favor after I'd helped break up a human trafficking ring in 2023. "I need to report a federal conspiracy," I told her. "Wire fraud, identity theft, and possible RICO violations." "How serious are we talking, Stefan?" $75,000 in wire transfers, forged financial documents, and a corrupt state judge, plus a convicted felon using false identities to commit financial crimes across state lines. Sarah agreed to meet me that afternoon at a coffee shop in Beaverton, far from downtown Portland, where Clive might spot us. I brought 3 file boxes containing everything Patricia Vance had uncovered, plus my own surveillance evidence. "Jesus Christ," Sarah muttered as she reviewed the documents. "Your wife really handed over your entire financial portfolio. Bank statements, business contracts, client lists, tax returns going back 7 years, everything." She studied the wire transfer records. "Redstone Holdings, LLC. We've seen this shell company before. It's connected to at least 3 other financial fraud cases in the Pacific Northwest." "What about Judge Brennan?" "That's trickier. We'll need rock-solid evidence to go after a sitting judge. But if he's taking bribes to influence custody cases, that's federal corruption." I pulled out my phone and played an audio recording from July 14th, the day before my birthday. I'd hidden a digital recorder in Lena's purse before she left for one of her yoga classes, which was actually a strategy meeting with Clive and the judge. Judge Brennan's voice was crystal clear. "The custody hearing is scheduled for August 20th. I'll make sure Stefan's military record works against him. PTSD, anger issues, potential violence. We'll paint him as an unfit father. In exchange, my consulting fee is $25,000 cash, deposited to the account we discussed." Sarah whistled low. "That's bribery, conspiracy, and deprivation of civil rights under color of law. This judge is looking at 20 years minimum." Over the next 2 weeks, from July 16th to early August, I worked closely with the FBI to build an airtight case. They installed wiretaps on Clive's phone, placed surveillance on Judge Brennan, and began tracing the money trail back to Vincent Caruso in Seattle. Meanwhile, I had maintained the illusion that I was a devastated husband scrambling to save his marriage. I hired a deliberately incompetent divorce attorney, someone who would make me look desperate and unprepared. I opened new bank accounts with minimal balances to make it appear I was trying to hide small amounts of money. I even started seeing a therapist, making sure Lena's private investigator would document my emotional breakdown. The performance was Oscar-worthy. But on August 1st, just 17 days after receiving the divorce papers, everything went sideways. I was reviewing case files in my office when my phone rang. It was Patricia Vance, and she sounded panicked. "They're moving the kids," she said. "Right now." Lena just picked them up from summer camp, claiming a family emergency. "They're heading toward the airport." My blood turned to ice. "Which airport?" "PDX. I'm following them, but they've got a head start. Black Escalade, license plate Charlie Delta 7892. I grabbed my keys and sprinted to my truck. Portland International Airport was 30 minutes away in good traffic. It was 3:30 p.m. on a Thursday. It would take at least 40 minutes. I called Sarah Martinez while speeding down Highway 217. "They're running," I yelled into the phone. "Taking my kids to the airport right now. We're not ready for arrest yet. The wire evidence isn't." "I don't care about your wire evidence. They're kidnapping my children." I hung up and floored the accelerator. 20 minutes later, Patricia called back. "They're at the international terminal, Delta counter. Looks like they're booking flights to Amsterdam." Amsterdam. That made sense. The Netherlands has complex extradition procedures that could delay prosecution for months. Clive had planned this escape route from the beginning. I reached PDX in record time, parked illegally in the pickup zone, and ran into the terminal. The Delta counter was packed with summer travelers, but I spotted them immediately. Lena was arguing with a ticket agent while Jake and Emma sat on their suitcases, looking confused and scared. Clive stood nearby, constantly checking his phone. I approached slowly, staying calm. Military training kicked in. Assess, plan, execute. "Hey, kids," I said casually. "What's going on?" Emma ran to me immediately. "Daddy, Mom said we're going on a surprise trip to Europe, but I don't want to go. I have soccer practice next week." Jake stayed closer to Lena, but I could see the uncertainty in his eyes. He knew something was wrong. "There's no family emergency, is there?" I asked Lena. She looked trapped. Clive stepped forward, trying to take control. "Stefan, we can work this out," he said. "No need to make a scene in public." "Work what out, Clifford?" His face went white. He hadn't expected me to know his real name. "That's right," I continued. "Clifford Bannerman. 2 bankruptcies, 2 restraining orders, and an outstanding warrant in Nevada. Did you tell Lena about the check fraud charges?" Lena stared at him in shock. "What is he talking about?" "He's lying," Clive said, but his voice was shaking. "Stefan, you're having another PTSD episode. You need help." That's when I played my trump card. I pulled out my phone and opened a screenshot of his draft signal message. "Target acquired. Wife fully compromised." I read aloud, ready to proceed with Phase 2. Keller has no idea what's coming. 13 years of patience is finally paying off. Lena's face went ashen. "What does that mean?" "What target?" "It means you were never his girlfriend." I said calmly, "You were his assignment. Vincent Caruso, my former commanding officer, hired Clive to destroy my life using you as bait. The affair, the divorce, the custody battle, all of it was orchestrated to get revenge for something that happened in Afghanistan 13 years ago." Clive was backing away now, probably looking for the nearest exit, but he wouldn't make it that far. Airport security was already moving in from 3 different directions. Behind them, I could see FBI agents in their distinctive Navy windbreakers. Sarah Martinez appeared at my shoulder. "Stefan Keller, you are one stubborn son of a bitch," she said. "But you were right. We got the arrest warrants 20 minutes ago." The arrest at Portland International Airport made the evening news on every local station. Clive Banner, real name Clifford Bannerman, was charged with wire fraud, identity theft, conspiracy to commit kidnapping, and violation of federal transportation statutes for moving stolen financial information across state lines. Judge Harold Brennan was arrested at his home in West Lynn on federal corruption charges. The FBI seized over $150,000 in cash from his personal safe. But the biggest fish was Vincent Caruso. Federal agents raided his Seattle penthouse at 6 a.m. the next day, finding a sophisticated operation that had been targeting military veterans for over 2 years. Computer servers contained detailed files on 8 different revenge plots, including mine. Bank records showed he'd spent nearly $600,000 orchestrating elaborate schemes to destroy the lives of soldiers who had crossed him during his military career. This was never about money, Special Agent Martinez explained during my debrief. Caruso wanted to watch you lose everything slowly: your business, your family, your reputation. He'd been planning this since the day he got out of prison in early 2024. The irony was perfect. By trying to destroy me, Caruso had destroyed himself instead. Lena was arrested as a co-conspirator, but released on bail after 48 hours. The evidence showed she'd been manipulated, but she had still knowingly transmitted classified business information to a criminal. Her attorney negotiated a plea deal: 12 months probation, community service, and mandatory counseling in exchange for full cooperation with the federal investigation. The hardest part was explaining everything to Jake and Emma. Mom made some bad choices. I told them during a quiet dinner home 3 days after the airport incident. She got mixed up with people who wanted to hurt our family. But she's going to get help, and she'll always be your mother. Are you and Mom getting divorced? Emma asked. Yes, sweetheart. But that doesn't change how much we both love you. Jake, always the more analytical of my twins, had the tougher question. Dad, why did that man want to hurt you? I thought carefully about my answer. Sometimes when people do the right thing, it makes other people angry. 13 years ago, I reported a bad soldier who was breaking the law. He went to prison, and he blamed me for his mistakes instead of taking responsibility. But you did the right thing, Emma said. Yes, I said, and I'd do it again. The legal proceedings took 6 months to fully resolve, concluding in February 2026. Judge Brennan was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. Clive got 8 years for his role in the conspiracy. Vincent Caruso received 18 years for racketeering, conspiracy, and multiple counts of wire fraud across 4 states. The financial recovery was even better than I'd hoped. The FBI's Asset Forfeiture Division seized all of Caruso's holdings: the Seattle penthouse, offshore accounts, luxury vehicles, and investment portfolios, worth over $1.2 million. As the primary victim of his conspiracy, I was awarded $900,000 in restitution. Combined with my protected assets in the Cook Islands Trust, I came out of this ordeal significantly wealthier than when it started. My divorce from Lena was finalized in March 2026. She kept the house. I didn't want it anymore anyway. Too many bad memories. And I maintained primary custody of the children. She was allowed supervised visitation while completing her probation and counseling requirements. I'm sorry, Stefan, she said during our final court appearance. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know that I never wanted to hurt you or the kids. I thought I was in love, and I let that cloud my judgment. I know, I replied, and I forgive you, but trust isn't something that can be rebuilt overnight. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Will you tell the children that I love them? Every day. 4 months later, in July 2026, I moved with Jake and Emma to a new house in Bend, Oregon. It was a smaller city with better schools, and it was closer to mountains where we could hike and ski on weekends. I scaled back Keller Security Solutions, keeping only our most trusted clients and focusing on work that didn't require extensive travel. The kids, now 7 years old, adjusted better than I expected. Emma joined a competitive soccer league. Jake discovered he had a talent for chess and started competing in junior tournaments. They saw their mother every other weekend, and slowly, very slowly, our family began to heal. One evening in late June 2027, nearly 2 years after this nightmare began, I was grilling burgers on our back deck while the kids played in the yard. My phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. Mr. Keller, this is Patricia Vance. I wanted you to know that Vincent Caruso died in federal prison yesterday. Heart attack. Thought you should hear it from me first. I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it. Jake ran up to me, holding a baseball. Dad, want to play catch? Absolutely. I said, putting my phone away. Go grab your glove. As I watched my son sprint toward the house, I realized something important. Caruso had spent 13 years consumed by hatred and revenge, and it had ultimately killed him. But I had chosen a different path. Instead of letting his conspiracy destroy me, I had used it to build something better. The real victory wasn't putting him in prison or recovering the money. The real victory was standing on my deck, watching my children play, knowing that we had survived and thrived despite everything thrown at us. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well, and I intended to do exactly that.